a bumper on the front and bumper on the back, and have you double check it before we release it.
I will say my team's actually watching. They want to make fun of me.
Ooh, nice. We'll give it a second. It says 0 viewers, so we'll give them.
Yeah, they're used to it.
We'll give them a second to dial in.
We live stream our keynote sessions too.
Oh, nice.
So they're used to it.
Yeah. So they know to go to the video, and they know what to do. We'll give them a second. I don't see them yet, so we'll. I worked for West Asset Management back in the day.
Oh, okay.
So they were Omnium worldwide, and then West bought them, and I think they spun them off into Alcora. Alorica.
Yeah.
Oh. So, but I was there about 18 months, and then Gallup called, and so I headed over there. So I was a West employee for a little bit.
For a little bit
of time.
Okay. So you just had the taste.
Yeah. Well, we'll get started. Hopefully they'll join us.
Okay.
I'll see the number down here.
Yeah, and if they don't, they lied.
Yeah. Well, you never know. It is recorded, so they can watch it anytime they want. Jim Collison, we're live from the Heartland Developer Conference 2017. Day 2, it's Friday. We've got about 4 interviews lined up for you today. We're here with Gautham Pallapa, and we are, did I get it right?
Yeah, yes you did.
Close enough, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the conference. Glad to have you. Yeah.
I'm excited to be here.
Let's get to know you a little bit. Just give me a little bit of your background, where you work, what you do, some of those essentials.
Sure. So as Jim pronounced my name properly, I'm Gautham Pallapa. I work at West Corporation. I'm the VP of Platform Transformation and Engineering. So we at West work on a number of things. We have several business units. We do conferencing solutions. We're one of the largest conferencing providers.
Lots of phone calls.
Lots and lots of phone calls. Yeah. We also are one of the largest E911 providers. So we work in the safety services space with first responders. We do a lot of voice applications. Most of the 1-800 numbers, so DirecTV, Comcast, ADT, all these things come through us. So if you ordered a pay-per-view app for the Mayweather McGregor, thank you. We also do notifications, pharmacy pickups, Nebraska Furniture Mart, those kind of things, T-Mobile, school messenger, so all your texts K through 12 come through us. So very diverse things. And I get to work with super cool engineers in order to help transform brownfield technology into cloud native, elastic, DevOps, agile, lean kind of technology.
Yeah,
so it's
very
super cool.
Tell me your title again. That was interesting. Say that again.
I'm officially the Vice President of Enterprise Platform Engineering.
Yeah, and then you said something else about transformation.
Right. We are driving the platform transformation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so interesting. Your subject, I'm really interested in this. Tell me a little bit about what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Today.
So my topic today is continuous experimentation in enterprise space.
Yeah.
We usually feel that experimentation is super cool in a startup space or when you're a small shop, but there's this new concept of entrepreneurs, as you mentioned, that you can have the same techniques and radically disrupt your value chain from within. And a lot of companies are doing this. They do it either by buying incubator cells or other companies that can help drive it and fund them separately. The other way that we are trying to do within West and that we've done over the last 2 years or so is we have created teams to start disrupting the value chain from within, changing things from within using strangler pattern to the extreme. And it's an interesting concept. So I actually come and show some of my failures and actually reveal my prototype. My developers hated me for it, but we are going to show the first prototype and say this was where we started and this is where we are today. This is what our MMF looks like.
Yeah, we too at Gallup have tried. We tried a product just recently and spun it up within a year, and it didn't work. And we shut it down. I was really proud that we could. That's been the promise of some of this agile methodology, right? That you can move quickly. Let's start at the end and work our way back. It's very unpopular to show failure in an organization. And so as you think about getting to that point, what are some of the things you need to kind of keep in mind, knowing that things can fail? You've got to position that right, because not a lot of organizations are geared to that. So
Right.
give me some ideas about, as you think about getting prepared for that, what are some things you need to think about?
Right. So my primary belief, I'll start with that. So fundamentally, I believe that happy people are productive people. So what I do as a leader in my organization is ensure that my people are happy and that they feel safe. Because when they feel safe, they're able to take risks, and they take all kinds of risks with the knowledge that if they fail, it's okay. One of the things that we have done early on is celebrating our failures. So we actually demonstrate the failures, and we give them some kind of a lunch or a prize or something when they demonstrate and teach everyone that they failed. Because one person's failure is a teaching moment for a number of other teams. So making them feel comfortable that it's okay to fail. Another like small things are, you can buy these erasers which say for bigger mistakes. We bought one of those, and I made
idea.
everyone put it on front of their desks near the monitor, saying, okay, every time you're coding, every time you do something, just make sure that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes, because we're all human. I don't expect perfection. It's okay to strive for it as part of lean, but agile and the agile philosophy is all about adjusting, pivoting, as long as you know where you're going.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Amazon has a management philosophy is that they would rather see you fail quickly and learn and correct from it,
Right.
Rather than not try at all.
Right.
Is that a very similar?
That is, and it's a very DevOpsy principle. Failing fast, failing often, and failing cheap. That's the way you want to go, and
Yeah.
we encourage a lot of DevOps within our constructs. We kind of live it day to day. There are 4 pillars that we focus on. The first one is culture. Culture is always most important for us. The second one is automation. We believe that the systems need to do mundane tasks, and humans need to do high-value activities. Then we believe in metrics. We need to measure. We need to learn. So without metrics, we won't be able to learn anything. And then sharing. Everything has to be shared. And for people who are listening live and who are very much into DevOps, this is pretty much the CAMS model of DevOps. I didn't include lean in it because lean is an overarching principle. Everything needs to be lean. But it's pretty much the CAMS model being applied to life and work.
And sometimes that's easy to do at the developer level or at the team level. But how do you prep the executive team for that? They often, they're very driven by those. So how do you get them ready for that?
Yeah, so I actually wrote a blog on how lean, agile, and DevOps need to live in harmony. It's on LinkedIn if you guys want to check. Cheap plug.
No, it's good. I like it.
Out there, one of the things we want to say is agile and DevOps is super cool at the technical layer. What we want the executives to do is actually lean the process. We want them to think about making things as efficient as they can, eliminating waste, and they need to focus on the business track rather than the technical track. So we offer them sometimes plan A and plan B and plan C. And they say, okay, we are going to spend this much amount of time with plan A, and it's going to fail, and this is a probability that it's going to fail, and we tell them upfront. And a lot of executives actually appreciate that transparency. They're like, okay, we know we want to try this. There is a risk involved in doing it, but there's a huge profit if the risk increases. And they all understand the finances portion of things. So you'd be surprised with how much leverage and leeway they actually give you if they feel comfortable and that you know what you're doing even if you fail.
Yeah. If success gets redefined as cheap failure in a lot of ways, right? How does that change? And how have you seen the teams? And maybe you've got an example you can share with me where you've seen that those failures then turn and lead to a successful outcome.
Sure. So I'll pick an example from the talk that I'm going to give right now. I actually have a statement there saying failure is a stepping stone to success, right? And it's an old adage, but the example that I give there is we started with a prototype. We showed it to people. They hated it. They started making fun of it. And the only tactical reason why I wanted to show such a bad prototype was so that I would get viral marketing by them mocking our failure and talking about it. Because people tend to have tend to gloat over other people's failures more than at successes. But that's okay. As a product owner, I can leverage that and turn it around. So the next demo that we had after our failure, we actually had more people. And every time we publicized our failures and went on and on, and finally when we went to our final demo, we had more than 200 people attending. And then the adoption rate actually shot up. We were hoping to get 8 to 9% adoption rate after 3 months. We actually got 21% because people wanted to prove that our product was bad. And that's okay.
Yeah, almost a little bit of design testing.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it was.
And you're kind of like, hey, prove it to us. And it incents them to give you maybe some honest and some open feedback.
Yeah, I mean, it's gamifying the entire testing process.
Yeah.
The benefit is they want to say, hey, haha, okay, you failed. I mean, people have done it before. One of the networking professors, he actually wrote a book, and he used to write a check every time he found a bug in his code. So it's pretty much gamification. It's super cool to have positive intent with negative outcomes.
Right. Well, it's getting I think what you're getting to is it's getting the motivations in the right place.
Yeah.
And so we're incented to do the right thing, whether it's checking in on an app or liking a picture or we get those incentives kind of in the right place. Your example reminded me of Microsoft's Clippy. I don't know if you're familiar with Clippy, where Clippy was intended to be very helpful, never really was, got mocked pretty solidly, but became an example of that, that now people use that in demos and in examples.
It's a case study right now, right? It's become part of lore, and it's an obscure nerd reference that everyone gloats over. And you know what? People will remember Clippy even after 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the cool part about it.
No, right on. It kind of lives on. I love that idea of building that. So you began with, and I would assume these failures were pretty inexpensive from a design standpoint. I mean, they still cost, right?
Yeah.
But you're learning as you go along.
Right.
Did the designs get incrementally better? And what kind of feedback as you moved along? What kind of feedback were you getting, knowing that you were making the right decisions?
Right. So we truly went rapid prototyping. So we would prototype for about 4 hours or so, and then start showing it to people. And then afterwards, we started developing it together. And when we revealed our first prototype, we got so much of feedback because everyone wanted it in a particular way. So we said, all right, that's all feedback, good suggestions. We put it on a backlog, and we actually engaged some of the local talent here, UX designers. We tied up with a professor in UNO who teaches interaction design. And we told the students, come take a look at our product and please tell us why it's bad. Why do we suck? And make it suck less. That's all I said. I didn't even say make it better. So just make it suck less, and that's all we care about. And so they actually took it to heart. They took a semester, helped us with it. We tweaked it a lot. Every 2 weeks, we were trying something new. We did A/B testing. We did green, blue. We did a lot of those things. It finally became a much more polished product. But the domain and the space that we work in is very complex. So we still continue to tweak and move. And so in my talk, I actually have a final picture. And if you go to Sked, I'll be sharing this, the PDF of it. And you can see it actually looks like a product with a good UI.
Yeah. How do you determine, in this has always intrigued me a little bit, that how do you determine as you're making progress on getting feedback, and there are some who will mock it and some who really love it, how do you make the determination? You get to a point where you start building camps where this is great, this is awful, and both is valid feedback. How do you decide as you're doing this, how do you decide which of those tracks to follow? Is it pure metrics? Is it gut feel? Is it a design? You have some kind of design orientation. How do you make that decision when it's opposites?
It's a very complex question.
Yeah.
And there is no right answer here, right? I mean, a lot of people will go with their gut. So, for example, Steve Jobs always went with his gut because he had things meticulously planned in his way. He had a vision. He was an amazing guy at vision. What I feel is you need to take some of everything. At the end of the day, as a product owner, you need to be sure that you know what your thing is supposed to do, and our focus must be clear. So in our on our page, we had our basic thing that, you know, happy people are productive people. That is the primary goal. I want to make sure that people who use my product are happy. That's all I was looking at. So tying it and anchoring it to one particular thing will help you tweak. There are metrics, there are different design case studies and patterns that you can use. But at the end of the day, when you pull someone off, and we literally did it. We took someone from a different sales team or someone and said, "Hey, play with this and tell me how do you feel." And they said, "It's terrible." It's like, okay, tell me why. And then we go, we analyze, we do that, and we do a lot of impact effort analysis to say, okay, is this really impactful or is it just a perception of impact? And so there's a little bit more, but at the end of the day, having a variety of feedback and understanding what you're trying to solve is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think it's the bane of designers' experience when we think about it, because you're never going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And yet you got to kind of go with the numbers. And yet sometimes, like with Steve Jobs, he was actually trying to take people to a new place.
Yes.
And so sometimes you have to have that intestinal fortitude, right? That strength to say, no, we're trying to do something here, and we're going to stand tight on what the design that we picked, even though it may be unpopular now.
Right.
We're trying to take you
exactly.
somewhere. Yeah.
And plus, I mean, to your point of pleasing everyone, we need to understand what is the demographic or the audience or the people we're trying to please. Because if you look at the diffusion of innovation theory, you just need your early adapters and your pioneers to actually adapt to it. And those are the people who will have the critical mass to make others come to it.
Yeah.
So identify who you're catering to first. Otherwise, you'll just end up with something that has emojis and, you know, all kinds of cool text in a UI framework that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, that they may or may not use. How do you, we talked about the executive team, and sometimes they're hard to win over, but in enterprises, sometimes the enterprise itself is difficult to change.
Yeah.
It gets rooted in, it's established. It's, hey, we've always done it this way. This is what's successful. How do you also attack the enterprise itself to get them ready for change?
Yeah. So, so my second plug is a post that I put on LinkedIn called "Identifying the Right Change Agents." So there are two ways that you can do it. One is the grassroots level, where you can excite the entire mass, get critical velocity and critical mass, and then they can start, becoming a juggernaut and change the entire culture. That takes a longer time, but it's doable. But the other way is to use greedy algorithms and attack from the top while you're starting at the bottom. You excite the people below with the promised land and say, this is cool if you guys want to do it. And then start working with the leaders and say, hey, we will promise you this. We won't impact throughput, but we're going to try a small thing here and try a small thing there. It's a lot of strategy on how you do it. Because executives, they have the best intentions at heart. They always want to make things better. And we've always done things in a particular way is usually the comment that they make, because someone did not suggest and say, what if we did this? So if you do say, what if we did this, I will ensure that the risk is mitigated, they'll actually be open to it. It's a culture shift. It's a cultural transformation. It's hard. It's people. But, it's worth it at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd actually like to see more organizations kind of spin up these centers of entrepreneurialism. And that's a hard word to say.
Right.
At Gallup, we call those builders.
We call them builders too.
Yeah, good. Yeah. And so we'd love to see, or I'd love to see more of that. And it be a corporate culture where it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's no one's full-time job in some cases, but oftentimes there are great ideas or innovations. We used to call it a suggestion box, but to be intentional about it, where the organization's allowing for these ideas to come in, be tested and tried, and then they pass or fail. And if they fail, great, right? You kind of know for sure.
Yeah, so we implemented the 80-20 rule with a couple of people. We called it Project Athena. So we take one day out of a couple of people's lives, and they are dedicated to work on cool things. So it's pretty much the 80-20 rule. But we actually called it a project. And then we started giving executive reports and giving updates and visibility. We had a Kanban board, we had a Jira board. So it started becoming real. And then once you start giving executive updates about it, it becomes as real as you can get, right? So that helps drive it. And now in the platform transformation thing, we're actually creating something called agile engineering. We have pockets of agile groups that are going to start transforming our platforms in radical ways. And the only way we can do it is through rapid experimentation. And so agile engineering is going to be a new project that we're going to start, and we're going to have a number of tracks to help drive these. We've created epics to drive them. We are going to go full agile, lean, and DevOps. And
explain rapid experimentation. When you say that, what do you really mean by that? What does that mean?
So you can run experiments for a very long time. I know it because in my doctoral studies, we always did experimentation, and sometimes it took me 3 months to write a paper and get it rejected. So what we do is we say no more than 1 week for an experiment. We time box it, and we say, your experiment, this is your hypothesis, this is what we expect as an outcome. Within 1 week, you do not prove it. We will regroup, and we will see if it is worth to add more cost to it for another week, and you get only 3 of those. And if not, we're going to abandon it and try something else. And sometimes we run 2 to 3 in parallel experiments, because we're going into areas that we've not really gone into. Like, so we use the strangler pattern a lot, but moving into microservices and strangling legacy code is complex. So if we don't know if we can do it in 3 weeks for a simple problem, it's going to take years for the rest of our footprint. So probably abandon that, look at something else, put it on the back burner. If we have exhausted all other avenues, we probably go back to it and say, how can we make it work again?
Yeah.
So that's rapid experimenting.
Okay.
Time box.
And for you guys, a week is a good place. That could be different for everybody, right?
For us, it is a week.
Yeah. It could be different. People can kind of take it and experiment themselves, kind of with it. Last question.
Okay.
Have you had situations you come across it where the answer is failure, but the idea is solid and it maybe is just not yet? In other words, great idea, we implemented it totally failed, but there's some kernel of truth in the idea that could be implemented later. Have you seen that? Because I think sometimes we think failure means it's gone completely, and maybe it's just not yet.
No, I totally agree. And here's an example. So the initial idea that helped us start along this path was drastic disruption of the entire value chain, and we called it steam drill. It was I love giving code names. So we wanted to radicalize the entire supply chain, and we knew exactly what we wanted to do. We pitched it and we said, this is how much money I need, this is how much time I will get, and I will promise you this. Automating 70% of the value chain would have been a super awesome idea. People hated it and it failed. So instead, what we did is we focused on a small piece of that will actually improve the lives of a lot of people. And we took from that failure, and that is what I'm going to talk about today.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to keep in mind is these failures, you just don't throw them away.
Yeah.
There can be times when you can come back.
That you can always refer to.
Yeah, you can. Gautham, thank you for taking a few minutes. Interested in your session. I think there's some great things to learn in that. We captured a glimpse of it here, and so we thank you. We did have a few people join us on, so maybe your coworkers joined you after all. We have a couple more interviews yet to do today, and they're available if you're watching on the SiliconPrairieNews.com/live page. They're right below, just below this one. We'll be back here in a few minutes with some more videos. Gautham, thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.